Hi everyone, Tony Tonkin here from Real Change SA. I'm glad that you could be with me, and I want you, if you can, just to stick with me for at least a couple of minutes, because I have some important things to say to you, not just about the election, but about what this whole process has meant to me, and the fact that we have an election on Saturday, which most people in South Australia, I guess, are aware of. And if you are in South Australia, of course, I'm asking you to vote for me. But I had something happen today that put everything back in perspective. And I just wanted to have this conversation with you about what that was and why it's important in terms of who I am and this particular election. The first thing is, this is the last election I will be standing in. So this is I will either make it or break it, I guess. But what happened today was that I received a message actually from my daughter who lives in New Zealand to tell me that my granddaughter, who's 13, 14 maybe, who had an accident while riding a horse. She was thrown off a horse today. And immediately after that happened, or I got that message, I became extremely emotional. I was crying. I don't want to tear up now, but because things are better now. But I was very, very emotional about it. Prepared to hop on a plane and go to New Zealand if I could, to be with my daughter and my grandkids, because we didn't know what had happened. She was taken by ambulance to hospital, and the outcome at that particular point was unknown. What I became aware of was that whatever had been troubling me for the last couple of weeks just vanished. I for 2 weeks now, while working on this campaign, have been constantly worried about whether we've done enough as the Child Protection Party to help Real Change SA and to get us elected. Now, I sit number 2 on the ticket. Stephen Polaris is on number 1. Chances of him getting in, I guess, are certainly much higher than mine. And we need 16% of the vote to get me in, and 8.1% or something for him. So this election is important. But when I started to reflect on what had happened to my granddaughter today, I came to realise that it isn't that important. Suddenly, all the anxiety and the stress and I don't know about the sleep, because I haven't had another sleep since, but my sleep has been restless, it's been interrupted, I've had late nights and stuff, because I have been consistently worried about whether we've done enough for this campaign. And there's a whole lot of complications around all that, and I won't go into that now. But what I did realise, and this is the important point that I want to make to everybody, is that family. I've always put my family first, I think. But the fact that my granddaughter could have been critically injured at this particular time today, and how I felt emotionally about that, helped me to realise how important family is. And that regardless of this election and regardless of anything else that might happen in my life, how important my family is to me. And when I started to reflect on that, I also started to think about the number of times that I've had parents say to me, I'm really concerned, I've had access to my child, I've noticed a bruising on my child, I noticed there are ticks in their hair, I've noticed a whole lot of things that have been happening for a child over which I don't have any control. And here I was today in kind of a similar situation in a way, is that I would like to have been with my daughter and my grandkids to help them through whatever was happening for them today, but I wasn't able to be there. And I came to realise that being present with children at a time when they need you the most is critical. It's vital. It's what makes us parents. And in my career, particularly since I've formed the Child Protection Party, and some years before that, I do admit, I have been working to better understand what these experiences are like for parents. And I just want to highlight one other point here as well, is that and I don't often talk about this, so I'm making this quite public now, and that is that I was separated from my kids. This is 35 years ago now, but nevertheless, it still sits there as a painful experience. But I was separated from my kids through divorce when my ex-wife took the kids to Queensland. And there was a lot of parental alienation, and a lot of stuff was happening in relation to how my kids were supposed to view me, according to my ex-wife. And I didn't see my kids at all for about 5 or 6 years. So this experience today reminded me of the pain that parents experience around not being able to access their kids. I experienced that pain 35 years ago. In fact, I think I recall that for 6 months I cried myself to sleep because I missed my kids so much. And just thinking about it now, I tend to feel emotional about that because it was a number of important years. They were 5 and 9 or thereabouts, and I didn't see their formative years. I didn't see much of them at all until they were 18 and 20. And fortunately, I've been able to rebuild a relationship with them. And it's my daughter in New Zealand who was one of those 2 kids, my daughter from that first marriage. And it's important for us to understand that if we're going to enter into politics, then we need to understand what those experiences are like for the people that we're representing. And my plea to everybody today, I think, is this is the last time we can do an advertisement of any description to advertise the election campaign. There's a blackout that commences tonight at 12 o'clock. So this is my last opportunity to be able to say to you that this is my experience. And I care for greatly the kids that are in care. I care for kids who don't get services that they need to get in relation to perhaps mental well-being issues, kids that have a disability of some description, whether it be a learning disability or whatever it is. And I believe that over the years, I've spent a lot of time listening to people talk about their experiences. And there are certain experiences I've had in my life that I can kind of relate to the emotional distress that they feel. And the primary one that hit me today, as I said earlier, was this idea that a lot of parents today don't get to have a relationship with their children, primarily because a department makes decisions about what that relationship should look like. In my case, it was an ex-wife and a magistrate who made those decisions, I guess. But that was unjust as well, because my kids missed out on sharing their lives with their father. And those kids also found themselves in a DV type family or family violence type family. So somehow I understand the injustices that a lot of these issues cause. I get incensed, I think, by the injustices that's caused by a child protection system that fails to understand the impact that parents can potentially have on their children by simply not being there, and that the department tends to work very hard at making sure that there's separation. And I guess I need to say to you all, the election itself, elections as such mean very little in terms of the way we conduct our lives. And, you turn up to an election tomorrow, you spend half an hour going in, signing in, and then ticking the boxes, of which we hope you check Real Change SA. But beyond that, that's just 30 minutes of your life. I'm suggesting to you, take that 30 minutes out and elect myself into the Legislative Council, because at the end of the day, this is my last effort. I believe I can represent you in the way that you need to be represented, because I have certain understandings, not just as a social worker, but the way I work, the way I practice, and my own personal experiences that I've now shared with you about the importance of family. And I want to work as hard as I can to make sure that this system, which prohibits and I've experienced at one end, particularly the family court. So this system prohibits families from being rightfully attached to each other in a healthy and productive way. And we need to find ways to change that system. We need to find ways to be able to, confront domestic violence. I did a live feed the other day on the death of a woman in here in South Australia, at Millicent, and how tragic that was. And if for decades now, I've been working with families around ways to be able to improve this system by helping them to understand what the system looks like, what are the pitfalls, how to work your way through that, and occasionally we produce a really good outcome. Not often enough, but occasionally we do. The best outcome that any of you could have is to have a representative in Parliament who knows what these problems are like for you and who is prepared to work as hard as they can to listen to you, do all the things I have been doing for the last 15 odd years, and then to be able to implement that by challenging this corrupt, disgusting, despicable, appalling system that we have that tries to control people's lives. And it's that we must try and change. And I want you to help me to get there so that we can do that. Now, I had a conversation with Stephen Polaris a couple of weeks ago where we both talked about none of us are in this for the money or the glory. And I can assure you, I'll speak for myself anyway, I'm not. I'm way beyond retirement age, but I don't want to retire. I think I still have a lot to contribute. Because you reach a certain age doesn't mean you have to give everything up. I don't like the R word because I'm not ready for any of that yet. And I have the energy and I think the creativity and the passion to be able to continue doing the work that I've been doing for the last 30 years. But I want to do it on your behalf in a way that's different from the way I've done it before. I want to be able to implement change. I want to be able to challenge the systems that are in place that caused my children not to be with me, for your children to not be with you, or for your children not to get the services that they need in order to improve their life chances. These are important issues. And I'm prepared. And look, I don't know what other politicians' experiences have been. A lot of them, they do kind of like this training course for any of the major parties. They come through the Young Liberals or Young Labor. They have their sights set on being a politician. Most of them are middle class. Most of them haven't had any of these experiences. Most of them don't work in the field that I've been working in for all these years. And most of them don't understand who you are. I can assure you that I do. And that on Saturday, I need your vote so that I can take a place in the Legislative Council along with Stephen Polaris and make the changes that we believe are important for our community and for you. So please get involved and vote for us on Saturday. Thanks everybody for being with me. This is the last post we'll be doing, probably as Real Change SA. It will depend on what happens on Saturday. If we're not elected, we just revert back to Child Protection Party as planned come Tuesday once the votes have been counted. Thanks everybody for being with me. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly everybody, be safe.